All right, today we're going to dive into a really special children's book. It's all about one of the most unforgettable artists of the 20th century, Frida Kahlo. We'll look at the inspiring story it tells, and then we're going to unpack a deeper conversation it sparks, especially around how we talk about disability.
So, right off the bat, you should know this book isn't just any book. It's a huge deal. It's part of the Little People, Big Dreams series, which is an international bestseller, and it's gotten a ton of critical acclaim.
And the whole idea behind this series, it's pretty simple but really powerful. They take these incredible people, artists like Frida, scientists, activists, you name it, and they tell their stories to kids. The whole point is to show that every single one of these amazing people started out as a child with a dream, and they do it with these really cool, kind of quirky illustrations.
Okay, so to really get what we're talking about later, we first have to understand the story itself. How is Frida's life actually presented to kids in this book? The book really lays out her life in a way kids can follow. It kicks off with her childhood when she got polio. Then boom, the big one, that bus crash in 1925 that just changed everything. But here's the pivot. Out of all that pain as she was recovering in bed, her art was born. That's when she started painting those famous self-portraits. Of course, the story also touches on her huge love affair with the artist Diego Rivera, and it ends with this incredibly powerful image of her at her very last exhibition, attending from her bed, really embodying her famous mantra, Viva la vida, live life. So yeah, it's a super inspiring story, right? Art triumphing over hardship. But that leads us to a really important question, and it's kind of the whole reason we're doing this deep dive today. How exactly does this book handle the topic of living with a disability?
And to help us figure that out, we're going to look at a different perspective. This comes from Lucy Catchpole, who is a disabled reviewer. And for her, this book hits close to home. It's personal. As she puts it, I live in bed, so this one is personal.
And right away, this brings up something really interesting. You know how we often like our stories neat and tidy, like a simple before the accident and after the recovery kind of thing? Well, Frida's life just wasn't like that. It was way more complex. I mean, the book's own pictures show this. She was a polio survivor who used a leg brace. Sometimes she walked with a stick. Other times she used a wheelchair. And yeah, sometimes she lived her life from her bed. There was never just a simple after.
Now, I want to be really clear here. This critique from the reviewer, it's not about tearing the book down. Not at all. Actually, the review has a ton of praise for it. But it does zero in on one very specific problem. And it all comes down to the language.
So what does the book get right? Well, the reviewer absolutely loves how the illustrations make disability seem normal. You see Frida with all sorts of mobility aids, but it's not presented as some big tragedy. It's just part of her fascinating full life. Her art is always front and center, and the aids are just part of the scene. And another huge plus, the book doesn't shy away from her pain, which is so crucial to understanding her and her work.
Okay, but then you flip to the back of the book, to the little biography section, and you find this one sentence. It says, thanks to her strong personality, fighting spirit, and love of painting, Frida overcame the accident that marked her life. And it's that one little word, overcame. That's where the issue pops up.
Because as the reviewer, Lucy Catchpole, points out, not all things can be overcome. And that's a tough truth, right? Frida Kahlo lived with the impact of polio and that horrific accident for her entire life. So that single word overcame, it completely changes the story. It shifts it from a narrative about living a full, incredible life with her disabilities to a story about conquering them. And that just isn't what happened. It misrepresents her reality, and the reality for a lot of disabled people. So this brings us to the big takeaway. Why are we spending all this time on a single word in a kid's book? Well, it's because it matters. It matters a lot. It's all about the power of representation and the kinds of stories we choose to tell. See, the book is using a very familiar and, honestly, a very powerful type of story. We call it the inspirational narrative. You've seen it a million times. It's the story of someone conquering adversity. And look, these stories are popular for a reason. They make us feel good. But when you focus so much on overcoming, you can end up simplifying a reality that was anything but simple. The point here isn't that the book is bad. It's just that this kind of story has its limits.
So where do we land on this? What's the final verdict? Honestly, the book is fantastic. It's a gorgeous, valuable way to introduce kids to a brilliant artist. But the critique? That's just as valuable. It's a powerful lesson in how the little details of language can completely shape how we understand something as important as disability. It really pushes us to think more carefully about how we tell these stories, not just to kids, but to everyone.
And that kind of leaves us with one final question to chew on. What actually makes a story inspiring? Is it this idea that every hardship can be completely beaten, overcome? Or is it maybe more inspiring to see someone live a vibrant, creative, and unapologetically full life, not in spite of their challenges, but with them?